As a judge, I had a number of difficult cases, one beginning with Z, you may recall, and a lot of people blame me for the present incumbent as president of this country. When I'm asked to speak about that particular case, I tell them about a case I had in Zululand, where a gang was charged with robbery of a bank, the First National Bank in Ishawi. You know, criminals aren't the cleverest in the world, and as they approached the teller, the one said, "Give us the money or your geography." The teller, shaking like that, said, "Don't you mean history?" And the robber said, "Don't change the subject." So when I'm asked to talk about the Zuma case, that's when I change the subject. And it's indeed a great privilege to talk about something else. And as you are probably aware, I was involved in a cricket inquiry on behalf of the Minister of Sport and Recreation. And I'm proud to say that I relied heavily on Andre Odendaal and Ashwin's academic work. You know, when Mozart was young, he learnt how to write string quartets from Haydn, and later Haydn said he looked at Mozart's string quartets and learnt how to write them properly. So I learnt from Ashwin, I made a report, and I hope that he learned something from my thoughts in that cricket report. Looking at his paper, not being an academic, I found myself with a pen making little ticks as I approved of various propositions he made, various analyses that he arrived at and his conclusions. And I started thinking to myself, I wonder if this was a batsman, and I thought of each little point as a cut down to fine leg, or maybe with Ashwin, a ladies' man, a leg glance would have a leg glance would have obviously come into it. And as I added up these little ticks, I wondered if Ashwin would have got to a century, because those who follow cricket know how important it is to get to these three figures. So I looked at some of the things he said, and I would give some a 4 and some a 3, some a wonderful cover drive. When he spoke about me as incisive and a man of acumen, I enjoyed that part, and I found myself writing a 6 next to the margin, because I saw that as a wonderful straight drive off a fast bowler, you know, possibly the most exciting shot in cricket. There was a moment when my pen paused as I looked, when I found that my recommendations were regarded as naive. So I regarded that as an LBW appeal.
Realignment really, I think, has happened because of the ideological contestation in the ANC. And so understanding how this realignment is taking place means that we must understand what's going on in the alliance. And there, I think the complexities are indeed very great. They are complex because not only is there political fluidity within the alliance, there is also an organizational fluidity within the alliance, which the ANC and the alliance has exploited to its full. But in the long term, over the next 40 years or so, it might in fact prove to be its undoing. That fluidity is that the ANC does perform as a modern political party. It has all the trappings of a modern political party. Defined hierarchy, a procedurally defined decision-making mechanism, consultative mechanism, a branch structure, a headquarters, a party caucus. So all of those trappings of modern political parties there. So is the identity of a broad social movement. So if we look at just the way in which it went about constructing its manifesto and its party list, it had alliance consultations, it had an economic summit, it had sectoral consultations with business, with professional associations, with the religious sector, with sports bodies, with all sorts of different complements of society. So that engagement as a broad social movement, as a popular front, it still maintains. And then, of course, there's the historical legacy of it as a liberation movement, which is also an identity which it retains. But as there is this organizational identity, there is also a political ideological identity. And so that is what's going to give rise to, I think, political contestation and realignment in the body politic. Part of it is reflected in COPE. A broader reflection will happen, I suspect, in a couple of years' time, when there will be, or there might, in fact, be another split within the ANC, a split perhaps to the right. But much of this, I think, is going to depend on how our social culture and how our political culture and civil society is going to unfold and affect voter behavior in the next election.